Hello and welcome to a new edition, I guess a rejiggered, a reimagining of Sybil's Book Club. I am Sybil Wilkes. Normally, this is in the time period of It's Sybil, our regular show, Monday through Thursday. But we are bringing back Sybil's Book Club, and I couldn't think of a better person to bring back this great opportunity for us to introduce people to wonderful authors and their incredible books. I am a big fan of this young man. His name is Derrick Barnes. He is the author of countless books. I can't tell you. Derrick and I met a few years ago. He came into the studio when we were still on the air with the Tom Joyner Morning Show, and when we talked, I was fangirling all over the place because I've been such a fan of yours, Derrick Barnes. Thank you so much for joining us, and I really appreciate you and your talents.
Thank you. So it was so good seeing you again. It's been a while.
It has been a minute, yeah, and a lot has happened. And you have a new book that we're going to talk about. And when we were going back and forth on Instagram about how to make this happen, you said I'm going to send you some books. I was like, brother, I already got them. I bought them.
I appreciate that.
Giving them as Christmas gifts as I do, especially to young people. I first fell in love with your writing with Ruby and the Booker Boys,
yes,
right?
Indeed.
That was a series that went back. How many years, Derrick?
I was just talking to my wife this morning. I met you in 2008. I think you came to Kansas City.
Kansas City, yeah.
Yeah, and it was at the Broussard Walker Center, and I think you were doing what you normally do. It was like a mentorship program, for young sisters. And the first two books of the Ruby series came out. I was like, I'm going down there. I'm gonna autograph these books. I'm gonna meet Sybil Wilkes, and I made my way inside, and you were so gracious and so sweet to me. And that was so long ago. I mean, you've seen my whole career. You've seen the whole arc of it. And
yeah.
I appreciate you so much just from that day on. And you're still the same person. So,
well, I try to be, Derrick. Gray hairs later, but I love good writing. I love the talent that you have. And more importantly, because you take your talent to that level, take it to our children. And it's so important. And I know you understand that. And with the types of books that you write, the titles are so perfect. And, a lot of this comes from, just our jargon, the way we speak in the neighborhood. You could be we could be brothers, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That is really powerful. And I really appreciate your, responding to me and to my questions to you, because sometimes there are issues. There are like I told you in one of our correspondences, I wanted to get a book, and I kind of explained to you where this young man was, and you weren't so quick to say, well, here's one of my books. You're like, I understand, and check out the books by these other brothers and sisters, and let's get some reading going for this young man. That is the beauty of you, your generosity of spirit in terms of sharing the works of so many different people, in addition to what you do. Crown. I could go on and on in terms of the books that I purchased. We Got Game and Who's Got Game and that kind of thing. It's just, you are just a phenom out of Kansas City. Who would have thought Kansas City, Missouri? Because my family is Kansas City, Kansas, the real Kansas City.
Yeah, we live in Charlotte now. We moved here like 8 years ago. I'm actually going back to Kansas City for Christmas because my mom is there, and it's the best barbecue on the planet.
Okay.
Every time I go back home, and I don't know if you've toured it, but I go to 18th and Vine.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the Negro League Baseball Museum is.
Yeah, I love that museum. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's where the Jazz Museum is, and there's a big bust of Kansas City's greatest jazz musician of all time, Charlie Parker.
That's right.
And I don't care how late it is, I always go back there and sit, and people probably think I'm crazy. I'm sitting to have a conversation with Charlie Parker's bust, because I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for our ancestors, and not just other writers. I'm a big fan of Langston Hughes, as you know. He's from Missouri, but Gwendolyn Brooks, and you
Who is
know,
the pride of Chicago, by the
that's
way.
right, that's
We
right, Gwendolyn
understand where
Brooks,
she comes from, but
that's right.
Chicago claims her.
Well, I just have to pay homage to our ancestors and everyone, every Black artist that came before me, because we have a big obligation to our people. If you're Black and you're an artist, that immediately makes you an activist. You have
Right.
to create work that exemplifies Black excellence, which is a redundant statement, really. And I write for children, which, for the most part, introduces a lot of our children to Black literature and to
Right.
Black fine art. And I take my responsibility extremely serious. So if you see me on 18th and Vine at midnight talking to Charlie Parker bus, I'm just giving my thanks, y'all.
Well, you know what? And I wanted to talk about this because you have a certain rhythm that you have in your writing style. And I was wondering, is that a gift or is that a learned practice on your part, do you think?
I think, the question that we get a lot is, who did we read when we were growing up?
Mm-hmm.
I read a lot of nonfiction, and I didn't read a lot of fiction, obviously, because we didn't have a lot of books that
We
had,
weren't represented in that,
yeah,
right?
it wasn't represented at all. But where I did find representation was in Black music.
Mm-hmm.
I always talk about the liner notes and how all the lyrics were in the liner
Right.
notes, and you just remember opening those albums up, Sybil, and seeing Stevie Wonder's lyrics and Earth, Wind and Fire's lyrics, and Roberta Flack, who was the
Yeah.
first woman I fell in love with, and reading those lyrics, man. That was my first introduction to poetry, writing, and so I think I write with a very rhythmic feel because I'm just a huge fan of our music, and I think I fuse that into every text that I work on. So.
I want to reintroduce and to kind of reset this. We are reintroducing Sybil's Book Club, and my first guest, I'm very excited that we finally made this happen, Derrick Barnes. And I do want to give a shout out to your management, Patrick Oliver, for helping to make this happen. We have scheduling and things like that, but I appreciate your time. And talking about his new book, it's called Victory Stand, and it is, there we go. And you can see in the background behind Derrick the covers of some of his other books, and it is this is a different kind of venture for you. You're now into the graphic novel. How did that happen? How did and why did you choose it for this particular topic and this story, and talking about the history of Mr. Tommy Smith and making a stand for Black Power at the Olympics in Mexico City?
In 2000 so when you met me, it was Ruby and the Booker Boys, and in 2010, We Could Be Brothers came out, and they did pretty well, but not well enough where I could really call myself a published author, and I eat off of this food, off of these books. So, but after We Could Be Brothers, like between 2010, 2017, I didn't have any published books. The industry had almost forgot about me, but I continued to write. I wrote like 30 books during that 7-year span. And finally, one day when we moved to Charlotte, this office I'm in right now is furnished, but it was completely bare. I was sitting on the floor, and one of my 4 sons came in. He was eating an apple. I never will forget this. He looked down at me, and I was working on a book, and I was writing on the floor. He said, "Daddy, you know what you should do? You should write the blackest book ever."
Love that.
Yeah. I think he was like 11 years old at the time. And that kind of helped me to refocus and to, remember who I'm writing for. It's not so much, you hear a lot of artists talk about getting their foot in the door.
Right.
Sometimes you got to kick the door open.
Come on.
And the only way to do that is to be completely authentic and not worry about landing that big advance or getting a book deal on these big houses. But what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind as a Black artist? So I wrote this book that's over my shoulder, Crown, and Ode to the Fresh Cut, a week after Solo said that to me. And it was the book that opened my career up. But I ended up winning like 8 major literary awards. Major literary awards. Newbery, Coretta Scott King, Kirkus Prize. It was crazy. And during the award ceremony, which was in 2018, my agent, Miss Regina Brooks, shout out to Regina. I love you, Regina. She walked me over to the W.W. Norton table. That's a publishing company, and they do mostly academic books. And we were like maybe 40 yards away from the booth. And she said, "You want to write a book about Tommy Smith?" Because they asked me, they were looking for an author. And so I thought about Solo's statement, and I thought about the work that I want to put out and the body of work that I want to leave behind. And what better work to leave behind than a young adult novel about probably the most iconic protest sports image in sports history. So I agreed to do it in 2018. Flew down to this brother's house. He lives in Stone Mountain, Georgia. His wife Dolores, very sweet. She cooked dinner for me, and I've just had a great time becoming friends with Dr. Smith, who's almost 79 now, and he's just so thoughtful. And I again just sitting at his feet, and so I thought about the format. Like, should I do just a straight up novel? Should I do a novel in verse? But this brother was once the fastest man on the planet.
Planet, right?
Yeah. So I thought about a graphic novel format would be perfect for this. Just the action, movement. You know what I mean? And we were blessed enough to find the perfect. There are no accidents in life. Everyone that I ended up working with, I feel like this person I was meant to work with. Gordon James, who illustrated Crown. Vanessa Brantley Newton, who did my King and Queen of Kindergarten. She also did Ruby. I was meant to work with these people. So we found Dawood Anyabwile, brothers from Philly, and he's like an underground comic book legend. And he is the illustrator of Victory Stand. And everything just came together. And I think we did right by Dr. Smith. God willing, we put this book together, and I'm extremely proud of what we came up with.
You should be. You should be very proud of this. This is a great marriage here, in which not only are you sharing the history and what, and especially in this day and age, when you think about people have kind of moved away from protest in the streets and things like that, following the George Floyd murder and things like that. But now reintroducing history, our Black history, to people, because now we're talking 50 years ago when this happened, and before you were even born, and certainly your young readers and your son, who encourage you to write the Blackest book ever, and without any kind of compunction, without any kind of reservation about this. You just went straight forward, and with a man who demonstrated this at a time, with the head of the Olympic Committee and everything, probably some of the most racist people that you're ever likely to meet, and how he stood up to this and brought attention to it in much the same way that our current Olympians are trying to do, and other professional athletes, and taking a stand or taking a knee, if you will. And the graphic novel is now the way to go, Derrick. It really does seem to be like that. Some of the books that I have given recently, especially for one young member of my family who really likes history. And so, and one of my heroes is the late, great John Lewis. And so his March books, right? Telling his story.
Beautiful books. Yeah, I met Andrew Iden. He's the author of the book, and he and I have become friends. And I just kind of reached out to him, and I read a lot of different because this is my first graphic novel. But I just felt like, again, this story needs to be told, because I'm a big origin person. I like to go back and find out what makes people great, or what made them great. And when I sat down with Dr. Smith,
what was the catalyst? What was that moment when you knew you needed to tell his story?
I think when I sat down in his man cave, which looks like a huge museum, he has a picture of him with of dignitaries and every athlete you can possibly think of. And I was extremely intimidated, but I was excited about taking notes. But after we sat down, after like 20 minutes, I felt like I was sitting with my grandfather. I was sitting with my father. And then after an hour, I was like, this is just a country boy from Texas that God has blessed with amazing superhuman speed.
Right.
And so I thought about the kids that may be reading this book. It's like, we need all hands on deck right now. We need as many loud voices and good people as we possibly can. And God gives us gifts. We talk about gifts in our house all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so what is our purpose? And I feel like our purpose is to use whatever gifts we've been given in order to glorify God and to help other people, no matter what that gift might
Amen.
be. You might be a good listener, you may crochet well, you may sing well, you may just be able to have 4.2 speed and
Uh,
but you use that in order to make a statement, in order to reach out to people. So I want young people all over the planet that may pick up this book to understand that you have a gift, whatever it is God has blessed you with. Use that in order to make a difference at your school, in your neighborhood, or on your block. You know, it doesn't always have to be a performance gift or some
right.
athletic gift, but you just use whatever you've been given, because we need all hands on deck right now. You know, all over the planet, not just in the United States of America, but every single continent. There's something going on where we need young people to stand up and raise their fists. You know,
Yeah. And you have 4 young kings, right, in your
yes,
home
yes,
that
the
you
mighty
and your
Barnes.
wife are raising.
That's right. And
And
2 of
they're
them are in college now, Sybil.
that's what I was going to say. And are they
Yeah.
following in the HBCU tradition?
Yes, my eldest boy Ezra is a senior at North Carolina A&T Aggie Pride. My second eldest boy is a freshman. He just received a football scholarship. He just finished his football season
Wow.
at Fayetteville State.
Nice.
And the boy that's on the cover of Crown, Silas, he is a junior in high school, but he's looking at Norfolk State. He's looking at Xavier. He's looking at Jackson State, which is my alma mater.
Right.
Yeah, I love, baby. Yes, Jackson State University. And my youngest son, Namdi, he's 11, but he's also expressed interest in going to HBCU. So got to keep
That
him
is
in the
awesome.
family. Yeah.
How did you find your way to an HBCU from Kansas City and Jackson State in particular?
Well,
We still have a love here
yeah,
for the
I know
HBCUs.
you do. Well, like most of us, we are descendants of folks that were part of that migration.
Mm-hmm.
And so my folks are from Clarksdale, Mississippi,
Got it.
down the Delta, and I have a lot of relatives, and it's a small town called Lexington, which that's where I spent a lot of summers from
Mm-hmm.
Kansas City. And 2 of my aunts lived in Jackson when I was in high school, so just going down there, visiting the yard, it just felt right, and it's probably the best decision I ever made. I'm so glad God guided me to Jackson State, because I met my best friends, guys that I consider brothers, but most
Right.
importantly, I met my wife down there. I went down there to find me a thick country girl that can cook, but I met me a girl from Compton, man, instead, man. And we've been married 22 years now. So
Congratulations.
thank
Congratulations. I
you.
love the way you tell the story of your family and Instagram and you said your son is graduating.
Yeah.
I just remember when you were sending him off,
Oh,
and I felt the love and pride that you felt in him.
yeah.
And now you're 2 in and still got these young guys at home. That's
Yeah.
really powerful. And you're talking about finding your gift. I think you and I may have been streaming through the same Instagram sites, because when you said about whatever you're good at, and there's a young man out there who calls himself a crocheting prodigy,
Mm.
if you will, a young Black boy, and apparently adopted by a white family, but his thing is to crochet, and it's
I think I saw him. He was on Drew Barrymore, I think, the week
yeah.
before we were on that. That was in 2020. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think I've seen him. Mm-hmm.
It's so finding your gift is really important. When did you find your gift? How did writing come to you?
Man, I was in the 5th grade. That was a very pivotal year for me, because that year I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So
Mhm.
I've been a diabetic for 37 years now.
Wow.
But Mrs. Shelby, shout out to Miss Shelby and all the amazing English teachers
Right.
in this country. Miss Shelby, I was enthralled in hip hop music. Me and my best friend TJ Hill doing a recess, we would go and battle other 5th graders, and she noticed that we love hip hop music, so she introduced us to all the writers in the Harlem Renaissance.
Mm,
And one of our first assignments that year was to write a short story. So I just kind of, again, going back to music, I just kind of fused my love for writing lyrics, and I wrote the story. And the rest is history. As they say, I got up and read my story, and they were so enthralled by what I had written. And I just kept writing, man. I kept writing short stories, poems, love letters, everything I can get my hands on. But I also, I mean, I just been, just like you, just an avid reader that loves to just consume books after books.
right.
And I've been that way since I was 4 or 5 years old. And yeah, books have always been a part of my life. But I caught the writing bug when I was
What
10.
was the story?
It was about, I had just watched Lady and the Tramp, and it was about these dogs. It was about these dogs that are traveling across the country looking for this magic bone.
Wow.
4 or 5 different characters, and that's one thing I learned from just reading Langston Hughes books early. Just voice
Mm-hmm.
and dialogue, and character development. It's a series that he's famous for. It's a character named Jesse B. Simple, and
Mm-hmm.
God is hard on his luck. Lives in Harlem in the 1930s and 40s, and I learned a lot from just studying those writers from that era.
Right.
Yeah.
And your voice and your gift with words took you to Hallmark right down the street, I guess,
Yes.
in Kansas City. How did
Yeah.
that come about?
I was the first brother hired by Hallmark Cars in the history of the company to
Right.
be a creative copywriter. But I graduated from Jackson State. I didn't know what I was going to do. I applied for, Teach for America. I know I didn't want to do the corporate thing, so I came back home, and I met this sister that I used to see in the spoken word spots,
Mm-hmm.
in Kansas City, and she was actually a editor at Hallmark Cars. So
Wow.
it was like, we don't have any brothers at Hallmark. It would be great if you would apply for a job. She even helped me with my. They had a packet that was this thick, full of creative writing exercises, and did that and turned it in, prayed over it, and I was hired in August of '99.
Wow.
First black man. I did that for 3 years. It was amazing. It was like being in graduate school. Really, I learned a lot about, again, voice. I learned a lot about the whole. I learned to appreciate the editorial process.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a real magic happens. Really, I've learned, and my whole writing style now is when I'm actually writing is to just dump everything out and don't read over it. When I come back the next day, I don't read over it. The real magic happens in that editorial process, and I learned to develop very thick skin and realize that the editors just want to make the work as perfect as they possibly can. So
Don't take it personally.
yeah, not at all. You can't be too attached to what you've written. You gotta allow other eyes to really look at your work, because you will miss something if you get too attached and too romanticized with your characters and the stories. And I learned a lot of that working at Hallmark Cards. So that was another pivotal.
That's a great
Period in my
training
life.
ground, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah, most definitely. They've cranked out a lot of award-winning illustrators, painters, writers. Gordon C. James, the brother that did Crown, he
Yeah.
worked at Hallmark. So
Was that after they started the Mahogany series
yeah,
or
that was
section?
after. That was after. That was after. Yeah.
So we are aligned in two things, because I'm known for just hanging out at a bookstore and hanging out and walking right down the strip mall to a Hallmark store.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I'm about to start working on my Christmas cards.
Ain't
But
too late, man. Ain't too
yeah,
late.
man, it's whew. So that is a great opportunity, and you never know where these opportunities are going to come from, do you? Is that
Yeah.
is that something that you share with young people when they talk to you about how you got to where you are?
Yeah, I meet so many people. So many people inbox me or email me who are interested in being writers, and they've never written before. That's the thing that kind of boggles my mind. And
Yeah.
we all have different paths. We're all going to end up where we are. There's a big African American children's book fair that happens annually in Philadelphia every year. So
Hmm.
look that up. It's the African American Children's Book Fair in Philadelphia. And it's like a family reunion. All the other Black award-winning children's book authors, illustrators are there. And if all of them told you how they got to where they are, it would be a different story. My whole thing, which what I tell young people, same thing I tell my sons, is constantly surround yourself with people who are doing what you are doing, who have kind of the same goals, and who are constantly working that will really fuel you to be the best version of yourself. And that's what I always tried to do, is just kind of surround myself with other writers, other thinkers, other people who want to be great. And yeah, and it has led me to this point. Like I said, there are no accidents. And I worked at Hallmark. I met Gordon. His agent is my agent now. So everything just kind of fell in line with me. But the common thread was I've never stopped writing ever since
Right.
that story about those dogs traveling across the country. And I was in the 5th grade. I've been writing ever since. Writers write,
Right.
illustrators illustrate, painters paint. You are constant. I'm even now. I just want to be the best version of myself that I possibly can. Doing this Victory Stand book has really exercised a new muscle, and I want to do other things. I just signed a deal with. I can't tell who I'm working with. I can't wait to tell you who it is I'm working with. But I signed my first animation deal with
Oh,
Apple TV, and so I'm
uh-huh.
working on my first animation project. The sister that came after me really just blew my mind, that she actually came after me to be, the head writer on this project. So I'm just trying to flex my muscle and just be everything that I can possibly be. I'm constantly trying to get better. You never want to stop learning. Just be a lifelong learner.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
I tell people that, there's three things I try to do every day. I seek a great cup of coffee. I love to laugh, and I want to learn something new every day.
Yeah.
And so you're right. You have to surround yourself with these things that are going to enable you to do that. People that are going to make you
Mhm.
think, that can generate a great laugh. That's why we have comedians on our show and things like that. And I'm still looking for the perfect cup of coffee. But what about you in terms of surrounding your family? Because do you have any budding writers in your family? Any budding doctors on the rise as a result of their parents?
Yeah, Ezra wants to work for an NBA or NFL team. He wants to be a team doctor. When he
Nice.
entered North Carolina A&T, he was a mechanical engineer. But over during the whole COVID period, when he had to come home for a little while, he just kind of made his mind up that he didn't want to do that. He kind of wanted to have a career in sports, so he wants
Nice.
to be a team doctor. Solo, he obviously wants to do NFL, and I think he can make it. He also wants to get into real estate. Silas wants to be a lawyer. He wanted to be a doctor, but he went to there's a SOAR program, SOAR X program at Xavier in New Orleans, and
Hmm.
he did the civil rights program instead of the medical wing, and it was about social justice. And he changed his mind. He wants to be a
Wow.
lawyer now. And he also plays the trumpet. Namdi, our 11-year-old, he plays the trumpet, but none of them want to be writers really. And I don't really mind that, because it's a hard road. So it's hard, when you have a artist in the family.
Yeah.
And I think that's just part of being a parent too. You just worry about them being able to take care of themselves. My mother worried about me for so long, up until
And
Crown.
probably still.
And I'm doing a lot better, so much better,
Right.
man. Thank
Right.
God for that. But she still worries about me, and that's kind of how I feel about them. But they don't want to be now. Even though I would love to go to Paris one day and go into this little small smoky hole in the wall place and hear Silas playing a trumpet.
Right.
The Silas Barnes Quintet. I feel more comfortable if he became a lawyer, but maybe he can do both. Who
Yeah,
knows?
you can. The world is
Mhm.
is big enough, and you have given so many young people the opportunity to dream as big as their imagination can carry them. And I think that is the beauty of your books. Um, Tell me about Tommy Smith. Tell me, I mean, I know you went to talk to him and everything. Did you have a preconceived notion about this man, having done your homework and knowing his history? And do you feel as though your telling of his story and the way that you did it gives people that same, I feel I have a different appreciation for him and who he was and his story and the stand that he made in history
Yeah.
through this book.
Well, I think everyone is familiar with that image of he and Brother
Oh,
Carlos. And he won the bronze medal. An Australian named Peter Norman, he won the silver medal. So I think all of us are familiar with that image. But growing up, I think most of us thought, at least I did, I thought the two Black Panthers qualified for the '68 Olympics and they
right.
made it. But they were not affiliated with the Black Panther Party at all. And so I studied his biography, which is titled Silent Gesture.
Hmm.
And that book is all marked up. I had to end up buying 2 copies actually. And again, just taking notes from him and just kind of just figuring out how I was going to tell this brother's story. But he's just, again, he's so, I think our personalities kind of mesh because we're both really laid back.
Hmm.
But he's very thoughtful by his word choice. Again, just very, when you think about a Southern gentleman, he's the epitome of that, and he's very kind. And when it comes to track and field, when you talk about the science of running, he's very astute in regards to physics. He actually had an injury before that race that allowed him to break the 200-meter record. He had an injury to his groin. And so to sit and hear him talk about how he was going to run that race that allowed him to win, he was talking about how much energy he was going to exert in the muscle at different
And
times.
understanding the connection there.
Yeah, I had never talked to a track athlete before about it. And because he ended up coaching. He was blackballed, obviously, after being sent home from the 1968 Olympics, and he never raced again. He never ran another race, but he was a track coach in California for 27 years after that, and he's still very much a coach. When I took the boys down there, and it was off season for them because they all run track.
Hmm.
And he was coaching. He was coaching in his backyard. He was talking to my sons about form and everything. So this a very kind, generous man, and it's been a privilege just to be able to meet the person,
Right.
and not just that image of the brother standing on that podium. And even more so today, I feel like sometimes we're going to be brought to different points in our lives, and you have to make a decision. Like, what kind of legacy do I want to leave behind? And sometimes you're just going to be put in a spot where you just have to do the right thing. And I feel like he did, and I'm so grateful that he did, because that image has been an inspiration for me and everyone who we talk about resistance. That is the visual epitome of what it means to resist, especially I'm talking about 1968 was probably one of the most
Right.
pivotal and volatile
That
years.
year was so incredible when you think
Yeah.
about what happened with Dr. King and all of the things that were going on in our country.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
So
Absolutely right. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna let you go, but I want you to promise that you'll come back, because I really want to go through all of your books and people. If you don't know Derrick Barnes' books, how can people find you and how can we follow you?
I'm most active because I deactivated my Twitter account for
Good
obvious
for
reasons.
you.
Yeah. But I don't think I was that active on there anyway. But I'm on Facebook, but I'm most active on Instagram at author
Mhm.
Derrick D. Barnes, and my website is derrickdbarnes.com. And this is the National Book Award finalist
Come
winning
on.
victory stand, y'all. Please check this book out. It's my first graphic novel. It's my 15th book, so can't believe it. So yes,
Derrick,
yes, DerrickDBarnes.com, y'all.
I
Check me
couldn't
out.
be prouder of you. I feel like a proud parent or a big sister because it is just to watch you. And as I said, fall in love with Ruby and the Booker boys and bring it here. I'm every good thing, and all of the books that you have given us, and to follow you here is and to bring you here is just it's a great day for me. So I really appreciate it. Before I let you go, I got to find out, as a JSU alum, Jackson State, what are your thoughts about Dion?
Man, it really got to me to hear a lot of people turn on him all of a sudden and make all these negative statements about him, and it just seems like we always want to make people out to be liars, or maybe they were being dishonest,
right?
Or
looking at the negative part of all of this.
Yeah, but so if you understand college sports, if you understand the history of HBCU sports, like, we know that these PWIs have always poached our talents. The amount of money that these large PWIs have compared to HBCUs is astronomical. I'm talking about the gap. So we are asking this man to reverse these systemic issues as a football coach. It's just not fair. And he has his own career and life goals. He wants to be a head coach at a PWI. I wish him well, man. This is his life that he's living. For those 2 years he was at Jackson State, it was some of the best years. And I had so many alumni go down there and kick it and have a good time. He had, celebrities come down to the games.
Right. Yeah.
But the real work is what he did off the field. He was able to organize and bring money to that university to change the practice field, to change the locker rooms. He even went through his own issues. He had 2 of his toes amputated.
Right.
His leg taken off, but he still showed up to football games. And all of a sudden, because he's not going to be a HBCU SWAC Jackson State lifer, people are attacking him. This brother has his own life to live, man. I wish him well. I hope he goes as far as he dreams of going, and I appreciate his time at Jackson State.
And that's it. He was there for a season.
Yeah.
And so now his opportunities have moved to a Division I, and that is I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think a lot of emotion went into this, honestly, Derrick, but I appreciate that coming from a proud alum of Jackson State.
No,
and once again, people, please do yourself a favor, do the young people in your life a favor, and get this book. As I said, I have several copies. I got to get them to you so I can get them autographed for the young people in my life. And even, revisiting some of your older books, starting out with Ruby and what have you. I'm looking at the making of Mr. Truelove.
Of Dr. True, making Dr. True, yes. Oh man,
I'm looking for that for a young 16-year-old girl going through her first, crush and breakup and stuff like that. So I think it'll be good for her to have that kind of thing in her head and what's going on in the minds. Young men.
There's so many other. Since the time I got into this industry to now, there's so many more artists and authors out there, but. I just want to say thank you for bringing me on the show and always giving my work love, because there aren't a lot of places for Black children's book authors and illustrators to go to showcase their work. And there's so many of us, so many extremely talented people that I look up to, and I would love to see more of them given a little bit more of a national shine. So I appreciate you for doing this.
Well, send them my way, because anybody that's endorsed by Derrick Barnes is fine with me.
Thank you.
And as a winner, absolutely. Derrick, happy holidays to you and your family. I am so proud of you and the work that you do, and always a fan. Always a fan. check out Victory Stand, everybody. Derrick D. Barnes is the author, and it is about what happened at the 1968 Olympics. If you don't know, ask your grandparents. About Dr. Tommy Smith and what the great move was and what was the big deal. You'll find out in this book. A wonderful way of celebrating our history. Derrick, thank you so much. And thanks again to Patrick Oliver for helping us to make this happen. Yes. And please come back again.
All right, so you know I will. All right. So
Merry Christmas to you and your family. Enjoy
right.
the barbecue.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us on our first return to Sybil's Book Club. And I couldn't have a better book to talk about in our return here. And we will continue to encourage people to give our money and our attention and our reading time to great Black authors such as this. This is a great way to, and a great book for people looking for books for young people, for and some older folks like us that need to know our history. Thanks for joining us, and look forward to more with Sybil's Book Club. Thanks for joining us, and happy reading.